agree, and I'm not that I'm a panelist, but again, just from the outside, listening to this debate, I ask myself, if I think about the energy sector, for example, depleting fossil fuels, depletion of fossil fuels, we know we have to go to renewables, but the big debate is actually you'll save a lot more if you're more efficient than if you just dig up a new type of fuel. So it's the same thing for water, and I think India has done a lot on this as well, and I know China has, in when you have small water tanks which are, in very bad state of repair. I think Sri Lanka has a phenomenal number, and if they repaired those rather than actually focused on big water storage projects, you would have a significant improvement in the fight against climate change. So I ask, is it the case that because dams are almost simple, we've been doing them for thousands of years, we know how it works, there are very big vested interests, there are operators, there are governments, there's corruption, let's face it, that in a sense that promotes the argument for big types of storage when and doing things like tank repair is more complicated, it's more difficult, it takes more time. Do you think that perhaps this plays into this argument and encourages big water storage development?
Firstly, corruption is a man-made phenomenon. We need to address that in a completely different way. If you feel that by avoiding dams you can avoid corruption, I will be for it. We can then immediately decide dam with dams and dam with corruption at the same time. If you can end the corruption of the world by stopping dam activity, I would be very happy. And if somebody believes in that, I would rather believe that we should construct one dam in his name, which should remain there forever, where the corruption has been drowned in that dam forever. So first of all, corruption has nothing to do with something with big dams or other. People will invent ways of being corrupt, and therefore corruption has to be dealt in a different way. So this is not something, let us not link one with other. So that's first point. Secondly, whether we need small solution, I'm all for small solution. But then we need everything small. We should not have big population. If we have small population, like what we had 1,000 years ago, I think we never needed this solution. We never needed this panel, because probably so many people will not assemble. This could be the world population probably. So this we don't need a problem then. So we need small solution when we have everything small. We cannot have big population and small solution. So we really need to make sure that some of these solutions that we think about are fitting with something which we really have. That is second. The third point is, so there's some man-made problems. Like we have constructed wrong dams, we should never construct them. We have constructed something which is not compatible with nature, we should not do it. Now the question is whether we should have, so these are man-made issues. Corruption, wrong planning, these are man-made. The second part is the part dealing with how do you actually ensure that the nature laws are taken into account. So that's something which has to be done in a proper manner. So I'm very sure that we really need solutions which cannot be dogmatic by saying we were opposed to this because something happened in 60s, 58, and we can chronicle those events. We really need to find out if that happened really, how to avoid that happening in future. We must make sure that how we can actually work in a manner that will fit with the realities of life. And something, please remember, countries, there are several countries in the world and for that matter, any country which has developed in the world has developed because of only two sources. One is a natural resource, other is a human resource. All capital, other thing, what we really talk about is fungible, that comes from any part of the world. So basically the countries can develop on natural as well as human resource. Now natural resource in most of the developing countries is water. And therefore if you cannot develop a developing strategy which is immune to this reality, we can never develop the country. Then this is a sustainable issue, this is an issue related to that. And therefore we really need to find out a solution which actually takes into consideration all these factors. And I hope we are really pragmatic, realistic, and also in terms of making sure that we take all these factors into consideration.
Zachary, can I just ask, because Minister Mutagamba will have to leave at 2:30, so could I ask you to comment on that?
Okay, thank you very much, Madam. And I really want to thank my colleague here for having put it straight and blank that we need this storage, and it is not something that we have to debate about because the demands are there. And I wanted to talk to Zachary. You think that corruption can be pegged onto dams, but corruption can be pegged on even to other things like industries, like aeroplane manufacture and all of that. So let's not put dams and say that that's where corruption starts. Maybe that's where it ends. Secondly, we are talking about dams not only for hydropower, but we are talking about them for the resilience to climate change. And that's what really, especially for us in Africa, that's what really matters. Because you can't believe that in one season, in 2007, I saw tons and tons of water flowing and washing away the soil and the people's property and bridges, and it all went. That was the month of September. I went back in March, and I found women looking for water and eating leaves to get saliva, to get a liquid in their body. And yet you could have dammed that water and keep it, and they would have sustained it. Another thing, when this water comes and goes, because you get it in torrentials, it definitely destroys our environment. But when we keep it, it somehow improves on the environment around. It moderates on the temperatures in between. It brings back the natural habitat, the animal, the bird, the butterflies, and all that. So for us, we think that that is something. At the same time, in areas that are really arid, like Karamoja, I'm sure you have heard about Karamoja, that's where we can get even the people to settle, because normally, traditionally, people settle where there is water. Now, in these areas, you can actually persuade people to settle and develop. Without that, people will continue meandering, and when you ask them, they say, we are looking for our water, and that water ended up in the Mediterranean. Definitely, they will never get there. So we think it is a must, it is absolutely necessary for us to do something for them, keep them in one place, develop them, and moderate on the environment. And finally, as I go, I really want to thank the World Bank, because, as we say, 10 years before, it was a bit difficult to talk about infrastructure development, especially in water and large dams. But now I can see the trend that we are able to talk and get listened to, and the projects are coming on board. And I think we are going to move much faster toward that. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Yeah, if I could just respond to a few points. I think that nobody is disagreeing that you want to give access to water for women in Africa. I think that's a tragedy that should be fixed as soon as possible. I agree with you. I think that the question here is how efficient and how flexible are large hydropower dam storage reservoirs. I would argue